Hello friends! Today I'm painting some loose cherry blossoms for your entertainment, based on a photo I took several years ago. I've been really inspired by loose interpretive landscape painters and just kind of wanted to be a little more abstract and a little more interpretive with this piece. So I'm starting out with the lightest color, obviously. In watercolor, it's always useful to start off with the lightest color, going in with the pink and some green, and trying to get a feel for the shapes early on. I think simplifying shapes in nature is the hardest thing in the universe. Yeah, I just find it really difficult. So trying to take what I'm seeing and just make it into readable shapes that aren't necessarily super specific, but will hopefully come together. It's a bit of a challenge, but it's super fun. And right away I wanted to capture the lighting that was wrapping around the trunk of the tree, which isn't added yet. So as you can see, some of the brighter yellows are along the edges, and when I put the trunk in, hopefully it'll be a little more obvious that I'm trying to get the edge glow, but it's going to be darker in the middle. It was sort of a portion of the photo that I'm using, just kind of this particular area of interest. Yeah, see, I'm coming in with the trunk now, and I was trying to be more interpretive with color as well and with the mark making. So I'm coming in with the palette knife, trying to create texture on the trunk, and I'm going to come in with the palette knife a few more times and try and work a texture in there. Didn't work super well at this stage because everything was a little too wet. This was my first time working on the Saunders Waterford paper, I think it's called. Yeah, it's 100% cotton paper, and it behaves much nicer than the other sketchbook papers that I'm used to working with. The sketchbook is handmade by my friend Spofghbook, online friend who has a wonderful shop where you can buy her amazing hand stitched sketchbooks, and they are incredible and custom and beautiful, and I highly recommend you check out her shop. I'll put the link in the description below. But yeah, so I'm also trying to work in the values super early with this piece, coming in with the darks. And do I have the dark and Danthron blue at this point? I think it's one of the recent additions to my palette, so I was trying to use it a lot, especially in the first few paintings I did in the sketchbook, and trying to see what it can do and how it looks against the other greens and the pinks. I think maybe coming in a little too dark with such a desaturated warm blue kind of took some of the initial glow out of the piece. So that's something that I've definitely learned through this little practice piece, is don't kill your brightest brights right away when you want to keep them. Values are always kind of tricky, I think, especially when you're new in watercolor, and I still think of myself a little bit like a newbie, just trying to get those values down when you also have to strategize how you're building them up. I don't think it's the easiest thing in the world, but it's also pretty fun. I love feeling like I'm carving interesting shapes out of the piece, and when you can get those darks in there at the later stages, it's just so much fun to watch things pop as you place the contrast of the darks. So yeah, when I'm coming in here with the dark, because cherry tree bark is pretty dark and is a nice contrast itself against the blossoms, because the blossoms are just so bright and pale, and it's just you can really see why it's a subject that artists want to capture. I'm not always super into florals, just as a personal thing. I find them kind of they're just so detailed, and people that can do wonderful florals, I just really admire them. And in this one, of course, I was trying to be a lot more loose, so I'm just throwing in the little dots in the middle of the blossoms, and then trying to get some of the shadows so that the later parts will really stand out stronger. Like I was saying before, I really took an interesting crop of the photo I had to get to the part that I thought was the most visually interesting, which was this contrast between the blossoms spilling out on one side and the darkness on the other side. I think I went a little too heavy on the darks because I really wanted that aggressive pop, but then I was having some trouble balancing that against the leaves, as I think I wasn't too careful in the planning, and then the leaves were kind of like a similar kind of dark, and I don't know, I was I'm pretty happy with this piece overall. It's just watching it again and coming back to it, like, it's actually a very useful thing to do because you can really see when you've photographed yourself doing any activity. Honestly, this works for all kinds of skills, but when you're filming or photographing yourself, you can really see things that you want to change and things that you want to improve of, so it's a really useful part of the process. Yeah, so just coming in here with the shadows and defining the leaf shapes a bit more to make them a little more distinct from each other. I'm going to be doing that with the blossoms too a little more, I think, because at the moment they're a little more uniform. Yeah, so there I am going in with a kind of purplish color. Purple might have been a little too cold. I think having a stronger temperature dichotomy would have been a little better for this piece, but you know, the coolness works in the shadows as well. Got in there defining top. Oh, right, and here I'm coming in to try and make the leaves a little darker because I felt like there wasn't enough contrast. And contrast really helps tell the viewer where their eyes should go and to move through the painting. And so if you can make a good statement, and that's a composition element. And oh yeah, okay, so here I actually grabbed, I'm not entirely certain what color that is now. I think it might have been either some red or some transparent red oxide. So I was coming in to warm up the bark because I felt like the initial washes had so much energy and like color that was free flowing into each other, and then I really wanted to pull back some of the warmth because I went really cold on the shadows. Even with the warm blue, the Indanthrone blue that I was using, I felt like it wasn't warm enough. But yeah. So I think you can see more of what I'm talking about with the pop because I was like pretty happy right at the end there. I felt like it came out dark enough and you could sort of see where the sunlight was glinting on the leaves and the blossoms on the top. And here we're going for the the tape peeling. And you can see the pretty stitching on the inside. Oh, so there she is. There are the blossoms. I hope you enjoyed this rambly little interlude, and I hope you're having a good day and you're staying safe out there. Bye!